Hey, I bet you guys have the same problem I do. Here's my game that I'm currently working on, which is Dice of Ruin. And if you look at the hierarchy, I've got hundreds of game objects in here. And I try to be a good game developer and I try to organize it as best I can. How do most people do that? Well, we put dashes on game objects that are folders for other objects. And for me, I put a couple brackets on game objects that are game managers, and there's a bunch of different ways. Everybody has their own kind of methodology to try to wrangle the hierarchy, but it's always a mess. Everything's always gray. Of course, I've got prefabs in here that are blue, but that's the only difference. So now there are tools out there that are hierarchy tools that will allow you to change the color of game objects in the hierarchy, add a little folder icons and all that kind of stuff. But the problem with that is that you have to select a game object and make that change. And then every time you introduce a new game object, then you have to go make that change, all that kind of stuff. And it just becomes really, really tedious. And as you're working throughout the week, you know, you're moving game objects inside of your hierarchy and outside and back and forth. By the end of the week, it's just a big jumble of game objects again, and it's hard to maintain. Try to keep that organized order and look to make it look really, really nice. So with that being said, I was like tired of it, and I wanted a really, really nice looking hierarchy that was easy for me to be able to get to and see everything that's in there. So here's my solution. So I created a hierarchy tool that is rule based. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at that real quick. So I've got tools and then hierarchy pro, and then here's rules. So the cool thing with rules is that you can set a rule, and then anytime you have a game object that meets one of those rules, it will automatically style it. It doesn't matter what scene you're in. The cool thing is that this is a config object that goes into your project, and then anytime you push out to get, all of your partner game developers all see the exact same thing. So you have this one set of rules and it affects your whole project, no matter what scene you're in or what computer you're on. All right, so let's go ahead and get started in setting up those. The first thing we need to do is create a config asset. So I'm going to just click that button right there. And then you can see we create this hierarchy pro config. Now, if you look at your project window and that's unorganized as well, and you need to find that asset, if you want to, you can just ping and you can see it's popped right there. You can easily turn this on and off. Of course, we haven't set anything up just yet, so we're not seeing any changes, but that's super, super easy. What I've gone ahead and done is included some starter rules. So this gives you a place to start. So I'm going to go ahead and just click on starter rules, and then automatically you can see I've got 5 rules set up, and it's already changed our hierarchy look. Now already you can see that I have header rules. So anything with a dash 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 and a name starts with dash dash dash, it automatically adds a background color of this dark gray and a light gray for the text. Any camera, you can see that it automatically adds a camera icon, and you can see we've got the default Unity icons that are included. Then you can always add your own icon as well if you want. So any 2D sprite you can drop in there and add that in there. You can also set badges if it has a badge or not. And all the coloring for all of those things is easily modifiable. Okay, so you can automatically see a change within your hierarchy. All right, and it's easy to go and modify. So let's go ahead and change headers real quick. So I don't like the dark gray. Let's maybe change this to black so that they're more distinct, easy to see. Of course, we can change the text color to anything we want, and you can see it also changes other aspects of the design as well. But I'm gonna go ahead and just leave it white for right now. And one new aspect of this that I've included is that I have included the ability to have a child count of that game object. So I can turn this off so those child counts go away. If I turn that on, you can see that anything that I have as a folder or in this header rule automatically chooses or tells me how many child objects are within that game object. And it's so, so helpful. I needed specifically to know how many people I have and prefab people in this people folder. And so I wanted to make sure that there were 20 game objects in there. Now, this doesn't do child of child game objects. Of course, that could be really, really hectic, but I have this child count on. You can easily just turn that on and turn that off. You can go and set up a new rule. So let me just do this here real quick. I'm going to select all of these fill game objects. I'm using the fill asset. in my game. And I'm going to go ahead and go back to tools, my hierarchy pro, rules. I'm going to set up a new rule. So to show you how easy it is, I can go and I can choose a rule with either something that's equal to, starts with, contains, regex, has a certain component to it, tag a layer, so on and so forth. And then I can create a rule based off of whatever that is. But from this selection right here, I'm going to go ahead and create a new rule. And what it's going to do, it's going to find anything that's common between those game objects. Now, because these are all field game objects, they all have MMF player components attached to them. So as soon as I click from selection, it creates a new rule, automatically gives it the text a color. You can see that's changed there. And then already I now have a new rule based off of these particular game objects. Now I don't necessarily like the way that looks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just change the color to black for the text. I'm going to go ahead and include a background color, and that blue is definitely not what I want. I want to go ahead and have kind of more of this yellowish orange color, and it's transparent right now. I'm going to go ahead and make that completely opaque, and let's maybe push that just a little bit more warm orange. And there we go. So we now have just that rule based off of the game objects that have the component MMF player. So anytime I add a new game object that has an MMF player to it, boom, all of a sudden it's going to use that rule as well. So it's so easy to create rules. And again, anytime, it doesn't matter what scene you're in, what computer you're on, who in your project is using this, they're all going to have the exact same look for their hierarchy. And it's super easy to use, and it's way organized, and it's an easier way for you to manipulate your hierarchy and see what's going on. So stop wasting your time by manipulating your hierarchy by hand. Use this rule-based system, and it will make your life so much easier and so much better for you when you're working on your project. And the cool thing is, again, it works across every scene, your whole project. The config file gets pushed up to Git, and so your whole team gets to use the exact same config file, and everybody sees the exact same thing, which is awesome. So the Hierarchy Pro is going to be on the Unity Asset Store, link down in the description. For the first 2 weeks, it's going to be 50% off. So if this is a problem that you're having with your game, this is the solution to help you with that. And also at the same time, if you're like me and you want multiple tags per game object, I also have another asset called MultiTag. It's also on the Asset Store, link down in the description. And it allows you to have more than one tag per game object. So if you have an enemy that is an enemy and a boss, you can have 2 tags, enemy and boss. So if you have something that's going to affect all enemies or something that's only going to affect bosses, then you can apply that using the multi-tag system. And of course, if you want to support the channel and my YouTube tutorials, go ahead and hit like, subscribe, and that little bell icon down there so you can know when the next tutorial is available. And looking forward to helping out as many game devs as I can. If you have any questions or thoughts or comments, please comment down below, or you can always hit me up on my website, bliz.studio. All right, peace.